often when you're coming through passes in the west or even in the east through mountain passes, you see a runaway truck lane. Will you explain what that is? And
so if you're going down a steep grade and you lose control of your truck or the brakes burn off because you're going down the hill.
We've all seen them if we've driven across the country, the United States.
Still not knowing what you're doing, you weren't trained properly. You're supposed to go into one of these lanes and, it slows you down so you don't wreck, right? You don't run off the road and crash.
Right, it's like soft gravel or sand or something.
Funny you bring that up. There's been a few incidents. One very recently in a place in Colorado called Wolf Creek Pass, which is name of a song by a guy named C.W. McCall, or at least that was his stage name. He's the guy that wrote the song Convoy, and you're very popular back in the 70s. So Wolf Creek Pass has got a number of these runaway truck ramps because it's I don't know how many thousands of feet up.
11,000 or something.
It's very high.
Wicked, yeah.
One of these in-source drivers from India went down that hill. Apparently had some kind of massive brake failure, and couldn't read the signs about runaway truck ramp, didn't know what it was, and then went off the side of the road. Truck rolled over numerous times, and he's now dead. There was a crash in Colorado, very famously, where I think the gentleman was from Cuba, went down this hill on Interstate 70 in Colorado and ended up crashing into a bunch of people, set off a giant inferno. He survived. A bunch of other people didn't. Same thing. Didn't know what he was doing. He drove right by all these runaway truck ramps because if you can't read English, then you don't know what runaway truck ramp means.
How do you burn your brakes? You said if you don't know what you're doing, you can burn up your brakes.
Well, when you're going down the hill, you're supposed to let, your engine compression or an engine brake or, just driving down the hill slowly.
Downshift.
Yeah. And you have to be taught that. And a lot of these truck driving schools today, again, this process of de-skilling and making people less competent, less proud, which, overlaps with the kind of people that won't fight.
Process of becoming a third world country, just having the skill of your average worker go down and down.
Back. That's just, they don't teach you that. There's a few schools that do. I interviewed a guy that runs a truck driving school in British Columbia who specifically teaches people how to get through the mountains, very well regarded. But again, he's the edge case. He is the minority.
Having sophisticated workers that know their job and everything. Look at China. That's what they have with all their manufacturing, the high-tech precision, and we're more and more just winging things and cutting corners in the United States. That's a sign of the decay in our economy.
In the industry today.
Amazing. What are the I'm sorry, before we even get to that, you alluded to it's too windy in Wyoming. What does that mean?
So trucks, it's a big wind sail. Imagine a van trailer, a 53-foot van trailer, right? And it's 8 feet high. So it's like, it's nearly 500 square feet of like wall, right?
Right.
And so if it's empty, it's very light for the amount of space. The empty container behind a truck is like the sail for a sailboat.
When you don't have anything in the trailer or you have a very light load, you get a 50, 60, 70 mile an hour wind. It just blows you over, right? And so they close the road all the time in Wyoming and other parts of the country where there's really high winds. Kansas, they get these crazy windstorms and they just take you away. So you're supposed to park, right? And again, they have warning signs for this all along various interstates saying, hey, high profile vehicles must stop. If you just showed up here from Somalia and you don't speak English and you just charge right on through and you get blown over by the wind, the people that hire these folks, not training them, which is part of the point, are setting them up for failure. I mentioned this gentleman who crashed in Colorado on Wolf Creek Pass. There's this thing called the donkey route, which is a human smuggling route that goes through Central America, and they have agents in India. There's been a documentary about this. I'm not making it up. And these young guys in India who are, they see videos of, their co-ethnic friends here and cars and girls and houses and, I'm going to go to America and make it. But, they can't get visas for whatever reason. So they go through this donkey route. They get to the Mexican border. They claim asylum. I'm seeking asylum from Narendra Modi. He's going to attack me because I'm a Khalistani. He's not attacking your family who are still at home and who have leveraged everything they have to pay the human smugglers to get you here. And now you're in debt to them, right? And then you go work for some trucking company, usually, but not always, owned by your...
That's the problem with people claiming asylum is everyone's going to lie. Unless, how do you tell who's telling truth and who's not?
Fellow Indians. And they don't teach you very much of anything. Just get in the truck and go make money. And if you don't like it, we'll just send you back home. And now you're $30,000 in debt to human smugglers. Right. So the exploitation going on here, this is not just a matter of like beating up on immigrants, right? We have a massive...
The immigrants aren't the evil ones in this story. No, I agree.
No. And the exploitation and they're the one...
And the media is the one enabling all this. I have to say this every single time. Every time you watch one of these infuriating videos, people think the politician, or you think, the bad truck drivers that are doing this. No, the media is enabling this. Because if you're in trucking business and everyone else is doing these bad practices, if you don't do them too, you go under. And if you're a business, you have a mortgage to pay, pressure to also start hiring illegals is huge. But the way to stop this is the media covering, like Tucker Carlson is doing, the costs, what's going on, why it's wrong, and to generate outrage, which causes politicians to react and fix the problem.
Someone's getting killed too, right? So all these crashes that have been in the news, there's usually also a guy driving the truck. I went and searched GoFundMe the other day and punched in like truck drivers thing. Right, this was a few weeks ago, and I was writing an article for my Substack. 249 campaigns by Indian families trying to get their husbands, uncles, fathers' remains sent back to India because they came here, got in a truck, had no idea what they were doing, got involved in a collision.
250?
Yeah, that's just the one name saying. I mean, that's not any other.
It's sad that these 250 died, but what's even more sad is most likely in a lot of these cases, they took someone else, an American, with them when they went out.
Nationality, that's not any other last name.
Just Sikhs.
Yeah. 250 of these guys with active campaigns run by their families either to pay medical bills or to have their bodies sent back to India.
That is shocking.
It is. And you know what's even more shocking is the fact that nobody wants to talk about this. So I've been writing about the trucking industry now for a few years, which sort of led to this book.
It's endless topics like this that the media should be covering. It's shocking. It's outrageous. People would want to know, but the media still doesn't cover it.
On the side, right? Like I've written for Newsweek and the American Conservative, a few other places. Your friend Oren Cass, American Compass. And I have tried to alert through my various media contacts, folks in the mainstream media or the left, right? Washington Post, New York Times, various smaller leftist places. Guys, we have a problem here in trucking. We're talking about it in the right-wing media because, apparently they're all anti-immigrant, secret racists or whatever. But like you guys are not talking about it. And
there's a lot of racism here, but it's not from truckers.
Yes.
It's from the people who run these countries who hate the native populations of these countries. Our countries, Canada, the United States, Australia, New Zealand, UK. That's just a fact. That's where the racism.
Being white is evil, according to those people.
Stop lecturing me about racism. Stop.
Yeah. And I think it's also, like you say, it's so much exploitation, but these guys don't want to talk about it, and when they do, it's these really terrible puff pieces, right? So there was one in The Guardian the other day, Trump is a meanie for enforcing English language rules. There was a couple written back before.
English language rules are essential to save lives, the lives of the truck drivers and the lives of the people traveling U.S. roadways. Oh, my God.
Christmas, one in the New York Times, one in the LA Times about, California-based Indian trucking companies that can't get drivers anymore because their drivers are afraid of ICE or being abused out on the highway. The other truckers are racist to them at the truck stop or whatever. But in none of these pieces do they investigate the safety records of the carriers involved. Do they investigate the human smuggling? Do they investigate, the fact that this is kind of a program from Narendra Modi, right? We have this sort of, a profit through immigration policy of sending his people everywhere. This is not just limited to H-1B.
Yeah, this is unlike China, that its growth is fueled by manufacturing that was outsourced from the United States and Europe. And that is permanent growth. That's real growth, long-term growth. If your GDP is being boosted by remittances, like Indians in the United States sending money back, let me put it to you this way. For the United States, our GDP is boosted by borrowing. And if we ever can't borrow anymore, well, our GDP go phew. But if that happens to us, if the dollar collapses, all those Indians working here, the dollars they send back won't be worth shit. And India's GDP will go woo too. It's not long term. It's because the places those Indians are being sent to work, the West is headed for currency collapse. So it's going to be devastating for India too when the remittances are going to dry up when the dollar and euro go under.
He's in tech, like this is also in trucking, and India's GDP is now 3 or 4% built on remittances, and they're not the only country that does this, but it's official policy from Narendra Modi, right? Send my guys over there, let them go. Now they're less of a political problem to me. They send money home. That's not through, the IMF or some financiers. There's no strings attached to remittances, right? They just come home and get spent however. And it's like a pressure release valve for countries with dysfunctional economies or dysfunctional governments to just like send all their people into the West. And the whole like, you know, Indians getting into trucking thing is not unique to the United States. It's a problem in Canada, New Zealand, Australia. And, you know, again, the problem is less that, you know, these people are from India. The problem is that the lack of training in Canada.
It's a problem everywhere that spread white systematic racism and what is it? White privilege. Yeah, everywhere it's been propagandized by the West. So hiring diverse drivers is good, don't you know?
There's this thing called Driver Incorporated, which is this sort of tax avoidance scam, kind of like, you know, hiring employees on a 1099, which would be misclassification. That's rampant in the Canadian trucking industry. In Australia, they call it sham contracting. And it, you know, it gives the companies that employ these guys a business advantage because now their overheads are lower because they're not paying for, you know, Canada Pension Plan contributions or unemployment insurance or payroll taxes. They're just not paying any of that, right? And now the drivers are also precarious because the drivers are so, you know, they're essentially being paid cash, right? And if you don't get paid, then what? You know, there's been a number of stories in Canada of drivers who went to work on this sort of Driver Incorporated thing, and then they find themselves not being paid. The companies just don't pay them, and then what are you going to do about it? You know, like it's just another form of it's exploiting the government, it's exploiting the drivers, it's exploiting everybody, and it introduces a whole lot of people onto our highways, which are a common space. Right? They're our highways. The interstates are paid for by the taxpayer. They were built by our forefathers. The highways are public, and we are allowing people who are engaging in criminality to put untrained, unvetted, oftentimes illiterate people that have no idea what they're doing, who are being economically exploited to be this most critical link in the...
Yeah, the system sounds so terrible, and it is terrible. And like what New York Times tries to portray this as a good thing.
Entire economy, right? Like truckers move everything, and we have allowed the entire industry to just be parasitized by foreign gangsters. It's criminal.
I know it's been a tragedy for you.
And all these trucker jobs could have gone to U.S. citizens that now AI is hitting white collar workers. And if you're lower skilled and try to get a trucking job, that's not an option. It's terrible.
Personally, but I'm glad you're not driving anymore because I can't imagine a more informed, articulate, wise observer of what's happening than you. I mean, if you're representative of the average American trucker, we need to protect them at all costs. Cost of living is already making it hard.
I agree with that. We need more people like that speaking out. Infuriating. Anyway, this will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch on Kick or Twitch. And I'll see you next video. Bye.